Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Well, I guess I got to get some business out of the way before I move on to what we're really here to talk about, which is a couple knives that I was inspired to buy because of different YouTube videos. But unfortunately, I've got a sponsor for the show, and he's dropped off some bling that I need to push. So Skip decided it would be a cool idea to hand out drink coasters promoting his club, Skip the Show's Volcano Club, and to basically prompt me into doing it. He's got right down there on the bottom, proud sponsor of Knife Chats with Tobias. And considering he's the only person I have found that is willing to sponsor the show, I kind of have to go along with what he wants to do. So I'm not sure how I'm going to be giving these away or anything like that. I know some people will just get one, I'll mail it out to them, or I'll mail them a couple of them or something like that. But beyond that, I just don't know what I'm going to do with them. But you know, when your sponsor says, hey, here's some freebies, I want you to give them away, you kind of have to do it. So, but what I did also to Skip is say, hey, Skip, look, I'll give this stuff away, but if you're going to do that, I want more than just proud sponsor of Knife Chats with Tobias on a drink coaster. How about making some drink coasters that are like my 2x2 sticker, just embiggen that into a 4x4 drink coaster, you know, and then you can have up here, you know, something about Skip the Show's Volcano Club. And he said, yeah, I can do that. That way he can sponsor me at the club and I can sponsor him on the channel, something like that. But that's what's going to happen. So stay tuned. Eventually I'll figure out how I'm going to give these out. But just for giggles, let me show you about how well they fit different drinks. Oh. Shot glass, beer stein, it just barely fits. Beer glass, much better. Wine glass, not too bad. Your moonshot tumbler shot glass for Apollo 11, it'll fit this fine. I think you run into a little bit of a problem when you get around to the 1 liter beer mug from Oktoberfest. It's not quite going to fit on this 4x4 drink coaster. Anyway, let's move on to the knives. Okay, let's see if it's going to mess everything up or not. So there's about 3 knives that I'm going to show, maybe 4. It's knife purchases that were influenced by other YouTubers, by them showing the knife on their channels. I think I'm going to start with probably the biggie, and that is this one right here. The Ganzo, what number is this thing? Anyone who's followed yeah, the G729 and 440C. Anyone who's followed Patty's Potato Peelers knows this knife. And I bought this knife because of Patty's Potato Peelers. Now, as you know, I'm not a really big guy into modern folders or anything like that. But I saw this one and I thought I would take a shot at it because of the price and also because of Patty's recommendation. And as you know, this is basically a copy of the Spyderco Para 2, but it's using the Benchmade Axis lock, what Ganzo calls the G-lock. Now, I know a lot of people look at this and go, that's a Spyderco clone or whatever like that, and therefore they will not buy it. And I get that. I am also of that type of person, with the exception of this is not really a clone, or it is a clone, but it's not a counterfeit. because Ganzo clearly marked this knife belonging or being made by Ganzo. It has the Ganzo Firebird on there, and there's numerous things on here that mark it so that you know that this knife is not made by Spyderco, and that's why I have no problem with this knife. If it was a true counterfeit, I would have an issue with it. I tell you what, when I first got the knife, the lock, like Patty said, the lock was just a bear to open and close. One of the reasons is because the pivot was too tight, but also the lock is just a bear when you first get it. You really need to break it in, and then it gets a pretty decent drop shutty action going on with it. I'm still not crazy about the G-lock on here. It is still very strong. I see how well Patty works his. I just haven't opened this up enough, and I probably never will. But this knife really answered quite a few questions for me about the Spyderco 2, and that is once I had this knife in my hand and used it a little bit, I realized I did not want a para 2. It was just too big, and so that led me to instead of grabbing a para 2, I ended up grabbing the para 3, which is the little brother to the para 2, and I'm much happier with the para 3 because the para 2 is, I guess you could say, it's just too much knife for me. But no, I just don't like the shape of the handle and everything else. And this is close enough of a clone to the para 2 to make me say, no, this is not what I want. And so I did not have to spend nearly as much money or go to a store and try out a para 2. I got my feelings with from using the Ganzo, and this is one of the earlier Ganzos with the round hole, which they later changed to an oval, and I'm sure that had something to do maybe with Spyderco getting on to their case about it. But the Benchmade axis lock, the patent had already ran out on that, so their G-lock is fine to use. There's a difference between trademarks and patents. Trademarks can be forever. Patents, they eventually run out of time. You can usually renew it once and then you're stuck. Anyone can use it. So any company can use an axis lock now. So there's the Ganzo. Still like it, but it was enough. I would probably, if I were really into modern folders and liked economy modern folders, I would probably have bought more Ganzos other than this one. But for my money, I'm fine with the Bird line of knives by Spyderco. I feel more comfortable using those, and also I'm more comfortable with the Chinese-made knives from Gerber, Rough Rider, Kershaw, and several other companies. So I don't see a real reason to bother grabbing any more Ganzos. Like I said, modern folders is not really where I tend to be, so that's why that's probably my only Ganzo, but it's a good one. And thank you, Patty's Potato Peelers, for putting up that video on the Ganzo, because I would have never found it otherwise. Oh, and because of the Ganzo, I ended up also picking up the Meadowlark 2, which is a smaller version of a knife, and I used this one, and so this one also ended up being picked up because of Patty's Potato Peelers video on the Ganzo. Both of these knives were a direct result of one of Patty's Potato Peelers videos. Now, way many people were influenced by a variety of people to pick up this little knife. This is the Tadpole. Yes, I know it goes by another name out there. I am not going to use the other name out there. I just, the knife just doesn't do it for me. When I first saw it coming out, I thought, man, that looks kind of cool. But I thought, why couldn't they have just made the whole thing, you know, all G10 all the way. Why did they have to put a bolster on there? I'd have rather this been all G10 from top to bottom. I would have liked that better. And then the next thing I did is I went and, got out a ruler and said, okay, how big is 2 inches? It was like, yeah, 2 inches. That is not going to be much. And it's not even 2 inches. Now, I have other knives that are under 2 inches that I have not only used but actually carried. But usually I'm not crazy about knives this big. So it's like, you know what, I'm going to take a pass on that. But then there was so much excitement on not only YouTube but on Facebook over this knife. And a lot of people just talking about how great it was. And yeah, and it does have a cuteness factor. I give you that. But it's just not cute enough in my book. And anyone who follows the channel knows that I really do like small knives. I got quite a few small knives. Matter of fact, another small knife is going to be showing up in a minute that I bought through the inspiration of the person who gave this knife or made this knife's popular nickname like viral throughout YouTube and on Facebook. So, and we know who that is. But this knife, I got it. It's like, it has so much potential, but it just doesn't seem to live up to it for me. So, not every knife that you're inspired by on YouTube ends up being perfect for you. And this one just didn't. Like I said, I wish there was no bolster. I wish the blade was a pin blade. The one positive thing about the blade is it's not a Wharncliffe blade, because this came out in the craze of everything having a Wharncliffe blade. So I'm shocked that it didn't have a Wharncliffe blade. I like the way it looks. I wish it was just 3 inches long instead of 2 inches long. I wish it was the I don't know. Wish it was the ballistic pickle or something like that. Anyway, enough about the poor little tadpole. Now, this next knife is close to what someone else showed on his channel. It's a different color, but it's this one here. It's the Great Eastern Cutlery Templar. I got the one in the swirly plastic blue, or the blue swirl acrylic. Big Red EDC had it in the red swirl acrylic, and I saw that and it's like, man, that really does look pretty cool. And I had been looking at this knife a couple of times and thought, well, geez, it's kind of small and everything else, and it's kind of pricey. Do I really want to get it? I had never bought a Great Eastern knife before, but then when I saw Big Red EDC's video on the red swirl acrylic Templar, and this is which one is this? This is the, because there's plenty of Templars out there, but this is the 06 Templar, one blade, and I don't know the rest of all the stuff. We won't go into it, but anyway, came out in 2019, so you know when I bought it. I bought it around the end of 2019. In any case, I saw it on Big Red EDC's channel. He had the red one, and this one was still available. And it's like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and buy it. And this is the very first Great Eastern Cutlery knife I picked up, and I got it, and I opened it, and I just, man, it was just, you could feel the quality just looking at it. After that, I ended up having to pick up some other Great Eastern knives too. But this is the one that started it all, and the person who started that is the same person who's just crazy about the little tadpole, Big Red EDC. So thank you, Big Red EDC. you're batting more than 500. There are many other knives that you have shown that I have been totally wild about, even though many of them I haven't picked up. But this one, this was a killer for me, and it's really great. I'm really happy to have that one in my collection. And this one, well, maybe it'll grow on me. So those are some knives that were directly inspired to be picked up because of other people's YouTube videos on them. And here's one more knife that was indirectly, I just had to pick it up because I wanted to one-up somebody on YouTube. And who would that be? Who else? Knife Detector. All right, I think I'm going to have to pull the camera back just a wee bit so that we can get this all in frame. And that is time for a dun-dun-dun, a gunboat. And we're talking gunboats. Not those little minuscule little gunboats from Rough Rider. We're talking major gunboat. We're talking battleship here. 8 inches, actually over 8 inches long, closed. And look at that monster. This is the Red Deer gunboat. How long is that blade? We don't have to give the fake inches. Let's get the real inches. Main blade comes in right at 5.5 inches. The cutting edge on it is a solid 5 inches long. Look at that spear point blade. Nice swedge on the top. Red Deer. The Red Deer Slayer, more like it. And then look at this for a sheepfoot blade. Monster size, eh? We're talking here cutting edge, 3.5 inch cutting edge, right at 4 inches long overall. Nickel silver bolsters, brass liners, your typical frost wood there going on. And then the elephant spay blade. Watch out, elephants. Again, almost 3.5 inches long spay blade, 3 inches overall. Anybody needs some elephant testicles? I got the knife for it. So there you have it. I just had to go ahead and pick this up. I picked this up a while back when shortly after showing off the my supersized sunfish. I saw this one online too. And I was like, oh man, I got to grab that before Knife Detector does. Yeah, they're still out there. There's also a super-sized lady leg knife that's available now, and there's also a super-sized standard Stockman out there. But yeah, needed to get the battleship. In any case, there you have it. Those are some knives that were inspired by YouTube and other YouTubers out there. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with Tobias. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.